guys, gals, and everything in between. It is very late on a work night, which is exciting, but Alien Romulus came out, so I had to review that. So here we go. Drink water, kids. It's good for you. I'm here today to review for you Alien Romulus. And yes, I'm not reporting from my usual set. I'm taking care of some things for the family. But regardless, I had to go out as a diehard Alien fan and see Alien Romulus. And me and Mrs. ScottsThoughts, aka Peanut, went and we had some thoughts, and I particularly have some thoughts, hence the channel. And so let's get started. Alien Romulus is directed by Fede Alvarez, who did the Evil Dead remake and Don't Breathe. He's an amazing horror director, and he's taken up the helm instead of Ridley Scott to do the next one. And this is a crew of young people that want a better life for themselves. They're sick of working for the corporate man of Weyland-Yutani, and they go to attempt to get supplies to immigrate to a new planet. And, well, what happens? Well, you can tell from the title. Aliens. And a place called Romulus. In my short, or reel, or whatever the hip kids are calling it these days, I said it's kind of a mixed bag for me. Overall, I will say, I enjoyed Alien Romulus quite a bit. But there are certain gripes where I say I would have done it differently. For those of you who know, and those of you who don't know, I actually am a filmmaker, and I worked in the movie business before. So I have my own director's vision, and when I saw where they were approaching this from the trailers, I said, wow, that's really cool. The story in my brain was a little different, and I liked the story in my brain a little better. I'm going to be a little vague here, guys, because this movie has a simple plot, but it really builds on the world and lore of Alien, which I really loved. But that means pretty much every critique I could have is a spoiler. You should absolutely go see it, but there are things that I would do differently. For instance, the first 25 to 30 minutes of this movie is absolutely boring. I mean, there is nothing going on. Now, the first scene, I will say, is awesome, and I thought that was really cool. Then there's a spot, it's in the trailer, with the face huggers. Fede Alvarez apparently really likes face huggers because they're the primary focus of the movie. Yeah, the xenomorphs are in it, but the face hugger, man, are they at the forefront. And at one point, I sat there and went, okay, we get it. You really like face huggers, but we also want to see the xenomorphs. And then the xenomorphs happen, and they are so good. They're all practical effects. It feels real because it is real. And I loved that. And every time they were on screen, you felt it. There are, for the most part, completely practical effects. And once it hits that point where the face huggers, there's like a scene where it's red and they get into the water. That is when the movie officially hits. And it goes from 0 to 60 in about 0.5 seconds. And then it's non-stop until the end of the movie. You just have to get through that first 20 to 30 minutes where you're like, okay, can we get this show on the road? Kaylee Spaney stars as the main hero. She does absolutely great. Isabella Merced is also in this movie. She is good with what she has to work with. They would have benefited from less young people. Hear me out. I think that this film would have benefited from a couple actors being above the age of like 25. Because pretty much everyone in this movie is really, really young. Like, we're talking like 24, 23, that type of age demographic. I think that was a problem. And The reason why is because, I don't know, it just felt like a bunch of kids running around trying to survive xenomorphs. And I didn't buy that as much. And there is an android character in the movie, for instance. And I think it would have benefited from having, well, actually, I just talked about this with Mrs. ScottsThoughts, that I felt it would have tied a nice bow on the franchise to have it be Michael Fassbender, because there would have been more ages, there would have been an adult figure to kind of navigate them through the story, and you could still have Kaylee Spaney be your final girl. She did spectacular, but I think that someone like a Michael Fassbender, or bringing in someone over the age of like 26, would be a benefit for this film. It felt a little Friday the 13th-ish in that regard, but it's a horror, like, it's one of those terror houses that you go into. It's a thrilling ride. It had a couple things that it missed on, but all in all, it's one of my favorite Alien films in the franchise. I will definitely see it in theaters again. And this is one of those movies that I didn't know how I felt right out of the theater, and I felt like it was a mixed bag. But the more I think about it, the more I actually enjoy the movie. There's just a few things I would do differently. And one thing I really, really appreciated is that a lot of the true Alien fans know that there's books, comic books, graphic novels, video games, and a lot of them all are like a one-shot story of there's just random characters that happen to come across a xenomorph, and usually there's some tie to Weyland-Yutani or Ripley or something. This was that. This was an Alien one-shot. It was just set in that world with a bunch of characters. There happens to be xenomorphs. Weyland-Yutani is involved. And it built on the lore, and I really liked that. As an Alien fan who grew up reading the Alien books, that was really cool. It felt like one of the books I read growing up. And so I gotta say, Alien Romulus is absolutely big screen worthy. Alright guys, gals, and everything in between, sorry I was vague on this, but there's a lot of things I can't say because it'll spoil it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I got plenty more videos coming to ya. Love you guys.